Namaskar. So today we are going to see the first Adhyaya and the second Valli of Katha-Upanishad. We start with gratitude towards the Lord, with whose grace everything is possible. We pray to this Guru Shishya Parampara through which this knowledge is protected, preserved, and transmitted so as to reach us. I bow down to my Guruji, Pujya Guruma, with whose grace I'm able to learn the scriptures. And I'm still a learner, a sadhaka, a seeker, and I'm here to share my understanding with you. We start with a prayer, which is also the Shanti mantra of this Upanishad. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karva Vahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. So Katha-Upanishad, as you know, is a dialogue between a student, Nachiketa, who is a child, and the teacher, Yamaraja, who gives the Updesha. The first section started with a story, also called an Akhyayika, where Nachiketa's father is performing a Vishwajit Yagna and he is giving up, donating everything. Nachiketa, as a child, is observing what is happening, is a keen observer and sees that old debilitated cows are being given up. And then he asks his father, "Whom would you donate me to, father?" Father does not respond first and the second time. He asks the third time. And father angrily says, "I'll donate you to death, the god of death, that is Yamaraja." Nachiketa follows his father's advice, explains him, and goes to Yamaraja, where he waits for 3 nights because Yamaraja was out. And when Yamaraja comes back, Yamaraja asks him to ask for 3 boons or 3 vardhan. These 3 boons that Nachiketa asks shows his brilliance, that shows his maturity, that shows his vairagya, and his commitment towards dutiful dharma life. The first boon he asks for his father, that he becomes calm, his anger goes away, he becomes peaceful, and he recognizes Nachiketa when he would come back. So that is the first boon that he asked, shows that our first responsibility is towards our parents and our immediate family. The second boon that Nachiketa asks is for the society at large, that he asks for Agni Vidya to attain heaven, for Swarga Prapti. And the third boon that he asks for himself, the highest divine knowledge of our own self, the Atmagnan or Brahma Vidya. In the last shlokas of the first Valli of the first Adhyaya, Yamaraja tests Nachiketa by luring him with many temptations of the world, about the land, about Lord of Kingdom, about wealth, prosperity, physical lures. All these lures, Nachiketa ignores them. And with maturity, it says that Shvobhavaha, all these are temporary. I'm not interested. You can keep all your vehicles, all your wealth, possessions, apsaras, everything you can keep with yourself. I don't need them. And finally, Yamaraja is very pleased with Nachiketa. And in this second Valli, he will start with giving the Updesha, the teachings of the Atmajnana, the knowledge of the self. But it starts with first describing the 2 lifestyles, similar to the third Adhyaya of Bhagavad Gita, where Bhagavan says there are 2 lifestyles, the karma and the Gnan path. And here, let us start with what Yamaraja is telling Nachiketa, the first mantra of the second Valli of the first Adhyaya of Katha-Upanishad. So Yamaraja says there are 2 paths. You have to choose one for all of us. Ultimately, Nachiketa is the instrument through which this message is coming to all of us. He says, Anyo Shreyo Nanyaduttaiva Preyaha Te Ubhe Nanarthe Purusham Gumsimitaha Tayo Shreya Adadanasya Sadhu Bhavati. hiyatirthartha upreyo vrunite. Yamraja says there are two paths. One is the Shreya Marga and the second is the Preya Marga. One leads to the highest goal, the Kalyana, the Shreya, whereas the other one keeps us in the worldly comforts and in the worldly planes, that is called the Preya Marga, which is priya to us, something that is good to us, comforting to us, which we like to do, which we love to do. Says te ubhe nanarte purusham sinitaha. Both these paths come in front of the purusha and they attract the person with a purpose. The prayer mark, because it gives us a lot of comfort, security, and takes away our fears of our day-to-day life, whereas the Shreya mark leads to liberation or freedom from all our limitations. So these are the purposes that each of these paths pull us towards them. And then how does a person choose the path? He says, Tayo Shreya Adadanasya Sadhu Bhavati. One who chooses the higher goal, the Shreya path, becomes sadhu, becomes like a saint, and he achieves the ultimate goal of life. So that is the highest path according to Yamaraja. And he says, Yah Preya Vrunite. One who chooses the worldly comfort, the Preya Marga, Hiyate Arthat Adhyaya. Means that person, he falls down, he misses the chance to reach the ultimate goal that human life is given to us for. Guru Ma explains us the two paths, the worldly path, the Preya Marg, and the divine path, the Shreya Marg. What are the differences? The Preya Marg, worldly path, is the most people love this path because it's very natural to get into comforts, and very few people choose the divine path because it requires efforts, it requires some amount of thinking and efforts. In the worldly path, people are attracted with desires, and on the divine path, there is a desire, mumuksha, there is a desire for salvation. In the worldly path, the objects never give us full satisfaction. They always give us a very temporary, transient satisfaction, and we are never fulfilled, and it keeps us in this circle of life and death. Whereas on the divine path, it gives us ultimate fulfillment, calm, and it ends our journey of life and death. In the worldly path, we keep acquiring things, possessions, grahan. Whereas on the divine path, it's a path of giving up. It's a path of tyaga. We have to give up a lot of our misconceptions, myths about our daily, vision. On the worldly path, we are always dependent, whereas divine path leads to independence, swatantriya. The worldly path is about the dharma, artha, and the kama purushartha, whereas the divine path is about the moksha purushartha, because that is the ultimate goal of human life. And the karma kand part of the Vedas are the ones which help us in the Preya Marga, whereas the Shreya Marga, Kalyana Marga is the Gnan Kanda. The Upanishads are the texts to attain the salvation. And the worldly path takes me away from my reality, my real Swarupa, Atma Swarupa, whereas the divine path takes me towards my reality, my real Atma Swarupa. So these are some of the differences between the two paths. But the most beautiful thing is that humans have the power to choose where to go. When there are two paths, we have the power to choose. We have been given that free will that we can choose whether we want to go onto the Preya Marg or on the Shreya Marga. Why people choose one path over the other? Most of the people choose the Preya Marg, whereas some choose the Shreya Marg. Why is that so? And Yamaraja explains in the second mantra, he says, Shreyascha Preyascha Manushya Me Tata. He says people face both these paths every moment. We as humans can choose, but animals don't have such a choice. Other species are not given this freedom of choice which has been bestowed to us. Tau samparitya vivirakti dhiraha. The wise, the dhira purusha. The wise, dhira means somebody who is using its brilliance, its intellect, and it also means dhairya, patience. One who is patient. He examines, doesn't react, doesn't emotionally take a decision, but examines both the choices. Samparitya, pariksha karte hai, matlab they examine what is what and what is what will lead to where, what are the pros and cons of both the marks, thinks, analyzes, inquires into both this, and then takes a decision where he wants to go. That is what Dhira Purusha does. And this Dhira Purusha Shreya Dhira Abhipreya Savrunite proactively chooses the divine over the worldly path, just like Nachiketa did. He gave up all his temptations and lures and chose the Shreya Marg, Kalyan Marg. He says, I don't want all this, I want Atma Jnana. That was his choice. Whereas Manda person means who is unwise, who doesn't have the adequate intellect, doesn't use it properly well. Prayer, Vrunite, chooses the prayer mark. Why does he choose the prayer mark? Yoga Kshemata. Yoga and Shema, these are the two reasons why Yamaraja says the most of the unwise people choose the prayer marga. Yog means we want to acquire, we want to possess something, that is yog. And Kshema means whatever we have, we want to keep it as secured. We have a fear of losing this, and that is a Kshema. And in Bhagavad Gita, Bhagavan says, Yoga Kshemam Vahamyaham. I am the person who takes care of all the Yoga Kshema of all the bhaktas and all the seekers. So we need to understand, we always believe that we are the ones who are acquiring and losing things, and that is why we are always under stress and under tension, and this is what keeps us in the prayer marga all the time. That is what Yamaraja is telling us. In the next third mantra, Yamaraja praises Nachiketa for his very wise choice. He says, Nachiketa Satvam Priyan Priyarupan Chakama Natyastrakshihi. You have given up, Nachiketa, all the temptations of Priyan. Priyan means those that is priya to us, like our family, our fame, our name, all this. And Priyarupan. Priyarupas means the forms which beautify, beautiful forms that lure us. All these temptations you have given up. Atyastrakshi means you have given up, Nachiketa, all these temptations. How has he given up? Abhidhyaya, by giving a very wise thought with a clear understanding of what are your priorities, what you want in life, examining this with this wise discrimination, which is called Viveka in Shastra. Nachiketa gave up all these temptations. Yamaraja says, Na etam shrunkam vittamai avapto. You didn't even accept temptations like wealth, jewelry, land, kingdom, all this you have given up. Where asyam bhavaha manushya majjanti, where most of the people are immersed all throughout their life. But as a young child, Nachiketa, you gave up all these temptations. That shows your maturity. That's why Yamaraja is very pleased with Nachiketa, and that's why he is ready to give this knowledge of the self, Atmajnana, to Nachiketa. Guruma teaches us to live a life like a boat in the river, so that the boat can be steered with just some halesa. We can just use them wisely, so that the water does not enter the boat and drown us, but we are able to cross the river and reach to the other shore safely. In the fourth mantra, Yamraja describes both these paths and the eligibility of the seeker. He says, again, the same paths are given different words here. Dura mete viparite vishuchi. He says both these paths are very far, dura. They are far from each other, the prayer and the Shreya marg, and they contradict each other. They are viparita. They are, because once you choose a prayer marg, you cannot go to the Shreya marg. They are opposite to each other. So either you can just use one. The prayer marg is the outer marg of the worldly path, where there is greed, it keeps us in bondage. Whereas the Shreya marg is the inner marg, the inner journey, where it always gives us a lot of satisfaction, calm, peace, and freedom ultimately. And here Yamaraja names both these paths as avidya and vidya. It says avidyaya cha vidyeti gnata. These are the paths of avidya, that is path of ignorance, which is temporary, which is divisive, which is elusive. Whereas the other is the path of knowledge, where there is awareness, there is a sanyama, control, balance, and there is aikya. It leads to unification of all our thoughts, actions, and our vision. Vidya abhipsinam Nachiketam manye. I believe, Nachiketa, you are the seeker. You have a lot of desire to understand this knowledge of the self, this highest divine knowledge, and that's why you are properly eligible for obtaining this Atmajnana. Natva kama bhavo lolupanta. He says you did not get lured by so many worldly temptations where most people would easily get swayed. And this shows that Yamaraja is very pleased at Nachiketa. He is explaining Nachiketa, giving him the background before giving him actually the Atmajnana. What are the ways of life? How do we choose what way we want to go? Now in the next two mantras, Yamaraja is describing the condition of a person who is on the path of ignorance, avidya. And most of the worldly people are, according to our Shastra, they are on this path of avidya. Avidyayam antare vartamanaha. People who live this kind of a path of avidya, life of ignorance, the path of ignorance. Swayam dhiraha panditam manyamanaha. They believe that they are very wise. They believe that they know everything and they are like scholars. And in our day-to-day life, we see such people who think that they know everything. They try to speak in such a way that they are on authority on those subjects. Dandramyamanaha pariyanti mudha. These are unattached. Mudha. Mood people means they are, they are attached. They have moha. They have a lot of attachment and they are unwise. And they keep dandramyamana. They keep rotating in this circle of life and death. And andhena eva niyamana yatha andhaha. Just like a blind person follows another blind person, similarly this worldly man will follow other worldly man. Some worldly man will say that, oh, this was very nice place, this was a nice place, restaurant, these are all the good bhogas. They all talk about investments, wealth management and all these, and the other people also follow them. This is how our Shastra describe how mood people live their life. Again, in the sixth mantra, also, Yamaraja continues the description of the outcome of such an ignorant person. He says, Na samparaya pratibhati balam. Balam means balak buddhi. They are like childlike. They are like childish people. They have grown up, but they still, their mind is like a child. They say they do not see any means. Na samparaya. Samparaya means another urdhva loka, the higher lokas. They don't see any means to attain the higher loka. They don't do good deeds. They don't do good karma. They don't think like this. They get easily lured by desires or like objects of temptations in this life. Pramadyantam vitta mohena mudam. They are mudha. They are attached to their vitta. Vitta is wealth. They are attached to their wealth, and that's why they do pramada. Pramada means that they indulge in things that is not very important, doesn't lead to a higher goal, but they lose sight of their highest goal and they immerse in all the other worldly things. They keep doing new and new, different projects and do not attain the higher goal of life. Ayam lokaha nasti para iti mani. They believe that this is the only life. This is the ayam lokaha. There is nothing like paraloka. There is nothing like onward journey. This is the only life. Let us enjoy. And this is how they live their life, with full of just temporary enjoyment. And punah varshama apadyate me. They just come to me. Yamaraja says they attain life and death. They keep rotating in this circle, endless circle of life, death, and they just come to me all the time. That is the god of death. So that is what is the ultimate goal of these kind of people who are mudha. They remain in this life circle. They remain on the earthly planes. They don't attain a higher loka. They don't attain ultimately salvation. Now, Yamaraja starts to describe what is this tattva, what is this divine knowledge, and before actually giving the knowledge, he describes how rare it is and how can it be attained, how we can understand, what are the means, what are the sadhana to understand the divine knowledge. He says, Shravanaya api bahubhiryo na labhyaha. Many are not even able to listen. Shravan bhi karne ka mauka nahi milta hai life mein, because human birth is very rare. Other species, they can't do this Shravana. Even if we have a human birth, then the desire to understand the scriptures, that that jignasa is very rare. And even if we have a jignasa to understand Shastra, we need a help of a guru. To have such a learned guru in our life is also very rare. So Manushyatvam, Mokshatvam and Guru Upasadanam is all very, very rare. And that's why most of the people, almost 8 or 9 out of 10, will not even have a chance to listen to these scriptures to understand what it is. Shunvanto api bahavo yam na vidyuhu. So many people listen to the scriptures, but very few people are able to understand, fathom what is given in the scripture, what is the ultimate, the big picture that the scripture is giving us. And this is because of several obstacles within ourselves. We don't do continuously the spiritual practices. We don't commit ourselves. Our commitments are at so many different places. We don't introspect often, and we don't spend too much of time. We are unable to do meditation because it requires a lot of concentration of mind. And that is the reason in spite of having a learned guru, we may not be able to understand or fathom or put it into our life. It says Ashcharya Vakta, the teacher who teaches that the guru is also an Ashcharya. It's an astonishment because out of selflessness and out of the grace of the guru gives all this updesha, the advice and the teachings. Kushalosya labdha, a skilled student, Kushala student is only one who is able to grasp this knowledge. That is also rare. And Ashcharyo Gnata Kushalanusishtaha. It is also an Ashcharya. It is that an enlightened seeker, Gnata means he knows this, he becomes enlightened, he knows this Atma Jnana fully, completely in his life. And this is only possible by Kushala Anushishtaha. That's a Kushala student, that brilliant student is Anushishta, means is cultivated by the Guru, and only then he can understand this Atma Jnana. That is also a big Ashcharya. Ascharyavat Pashyati, there is a slok in Bhagavad Gita which is also very similar, how rare this Atma Jnana is before we understand this Jnana. And why is this divine knowledge, Tattva, so rare to understand? He says, Yamaraja says, Esha narena avarena prokta na suvigneyaha. He says, this Atma Tattva, it cannot be properly understood by the teacher who is narena avarena, means a teacher who is not the best, who is not Shrestha. And according to scriptures, the Guru who gives this Atma Jnana must be not only just knowledgeable, knowing all the scriptures, that is called Shrotriya, but also who has been enlightened, who is Brahmanishta, who uses this knowledge, who is enlightened and uses his knowledge in life, has assimilated this knowledge properly in his or her life. That is a person who is both Shrotriya and Brahmanishta. This is an ideal Guru. That is what our Shastra tell us. So if this person is just Kshotriya or just Brahmanishta, but not both, that also is not an ideal Guru. And without an ideal Guru or a learned Guru, we cannot understand the scripture properly. Bahuda chintyamanha. Even after repeated contemplation, repeated thinking, doing lot of debates, we cannot understand this. Ananya prokte gati atrana asti. Means Ananya, a teacher, Guru who has an Ananya vision, who has a very different, insightful teacher. When he or she teaches, without doubt, Gati Atrana Asti, there is no doubt that knowledge will happen. There is no other Gati, because Jeev ki jo Gati hoti hai, wo, it will come to an end. Avagati is also knowledge that will come to the person, and there is and Atma does not have any Gati. So this Atma can be understood by only Ananya Prokte, a teacher who has an insight, who is Ananya, who has a different vision. He artarkyam. This cannot happen, this knowledge cannot happen just by tarka. Tarka is logic. Just by doing logic, discussion, thinking and analysis, this knowledge cannot be understood. Why? Because anu pramanat aniyan. This is the most subtle, even more subtle than the atom. It is a very sukshma thing. It has to be understood only by sukshma buddhi. And Yamaraja is very pleased with Nachiketa. He says, O Preshta, O dear Nachiketa, na esha tarkena mati apaneya. This knowledge cannot happen with only logic and discussions. Prokta anyena eva sugnyaya. Only with a well-versed guru and with Shastra this can be understood. Yam tvam apa satya dhruti. For knowledge that you desire, you are the most eligible, Nachiketa, because you are satya dhruti. He says, Aho bata, oh dear, you uphold the truth, and that's why you are Satya Dhruti, you are the most eligible for this knowledge. Tvagdrak anya bhuya Nachiketa prashta. We would love to have students like you, Nachiketa, that those who ask us this kind of questions, prashna, like boons that you have asked. You are such an elevated soul, and you are the most eligible to understand this Atma Jnana. In the next, the 10th mantra, Yamaraja says that worldly means cannot help us attain the divine, and that's why Tyaga, giving up, is so important on this spiritual journey. It says, Janami aham, I know very well, Yamaraja says, Shevadihi anityam. Shevadihi is karma phala. Karma phala means all the fruits of actions that we do in our karma, even if in this life or in the other life or in the parloka, aloka, the karmas done with sharira or with mana, that is a sukshma sharira. All these kinds of karma, the karma phala that we get are all anitya. He says everything is, all these worldly possessions, all these worldly fruits of actions are all temporary. And by temporary means, one cannot attain the eternal goal. Nahi adhruvaihi prapyatehi dhruvam tata. With temporary means like this, worldly means, we cannot attain the eternal divine tattva. Tata maya nachiketa chita agni. And still I worship the Nachiketa Agni, he says. And with temporary means, Yamaraja says, I attained a relatively permanent position, the Yamapada that he attained, but he missed a chance to get the salvation, and that's why he was on the Yamapada. Of course, it's a much longer pada than the human life, but it is also not completely, Nitya pada. He says, and Guruma tells us to own up this truth and assimilate this in our life, and this is our responsibility to make sure to understand that with the anitya means, the lively or the worldly means or the karma, we cannot attain the divine, the moksha. It is only by knowledge, only by atma gnana that we can attain the moksha, and that's why we should pursue this path. Nachiketa, you have given up everything. In the 11th mantra, Yamaraja says you have even given up the Hiranya Garbha position. Hiranya Garbha is the Sukshma Sharir Abhimani, the Sukshma Sharir on a vast scale, the primordial deity, where all the desires are fulfilled. Kamasya Aptim Jagata Pratishtam. It is the foundation of the universe, which is the eternal fruits of karma, devotion. Ultimately, one gets to that pada, the Hiranya Garbha pada, where there is no fear, which is worshipped by everyone, and it's the foundation of all. And even you have given up that pada, he says, with very wise discrimination, with clarity, you gave up all the temptations and you have chosen to attain the highest pada, the param pada, the divine. And this is what Nachiketa is. And in the 12th mantra, Yamaraja, it tells him that these are very rare, the means and the fruits of the divine knowledge of the Atman. What is it? They are difficult to visualize because tam darsham. It is difficult to visualize because Atma is beyond senses, mind, intellect. It is beyond all this sthula and sukshma sharira. It is kudam, it is hidden. And where is it hidden? It is anupravishtam guhahitam. It is hidden, it enters the cave of the mind, and there it is hidden. Gafyareshtam, and then it lives in this secret divine hidden place within all of us. And that's why we don't look within us. And that is why it is very difficult to understand this Puranam Devam Adhyatma Yoga Adhigamena. This Purana Deva, this ever fresh divinity or something that is attained by the former deities, can only be attained by Adhyatma Yoga. Adhyatma Yoga is a spiritual journey. Without a spiritual journey, one cannot attain this Atma Jnana. Martva Dhiraha Harsha Shokau Jahati. A wise man who knows this Atma Tattva, the main fruits of action is that his pleasures and pains have gone away. He is steadfast, he is completely paripurna, he is fulfilled, and he does not have any yearning or longing for pleasures and pains. In the next 13th mantra, Yamaraja shows what are the ways we can attain the Atma Jnana. The three main means or sadhana for Atma Jnana, the Antaringa sadhana, as they are called, the closest one to the Atma Jnana, are called Shravana, Manana, and Nididhyasana in the scriptures. That is what Yamaraja is telling us. Etat Shutva. This can be only known by Shravana. And this Shravana has to be done from a learned guru with a lot of concentration, ekagrata. And the first Shravana is for the Tatparya Nishchaya, that is a goal setting. What is it that I want to achieve? What is that goal? What is that true nature of my own self? What is the true nature of the divinity? That we have to understand. The Twampada Viveka, the Tatpada Viveka, Samparigruhya. And this has to be assimilated very well within us by a process called Manana, where all the doubts that are created, the Sanshaya, have to be relieved by what is called as a Tarka, logic. But this logic should be Sutarka, as given in the scriptures, not Dustarka, not by our own logical discussions. And then the third step is called Pravruhya. Pravruhya means to extract, to kheench lena. Atma and Anatma are, very, very intertwined for us. Atma is deeply hidden with lots of layers of Anatma, and we have to unravel the Anatma layers and pull or extract the hidden Atma from all the layers of the Anatma. And this clarifies our self as the Tattva, the real by contemplation, by meditation, which is called Nididhyasana, and that is to be done by our own self. This cannot be done by the Guru. Guru can only teach us how to do it, but we have to do it on our own. Martya Apya. Only humans can attain this kind of knowledge. Dharmyam etam. It is possible only by practicing the path of dharma. Anum etat. It's very, very subtle, cannot be seen. Samodate modaniyam hi labdva. And after knowing this Atma Tattva, the person dwells in eternal bliss. Vivrittam sadma nachiketasam manye. He says, hey Nachiketa, I think the doors of heaven or moksha have opened for you, because I believe that you are the most eligible to understand this Atma Jnana. And now Yamaraja is going to start. Nachiketa ignores all the praises that Yamaraja is showering on him and asks his question now with much more clarity. He says, Anyat dharmyad anyatra dharmyad anyatra smat krutat krutata anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha yattat pashyasi tatvada. He says, that which is beyond dharma and that which is beyond adharma, you tell me, I want to know that tattva which is beyond dharma. Dharma means good deeds, karma that we do, which leads us to punya and a prapti of the higher lokas. Whereas adharma is, what we call as vices or bad deeds, and then which leads to papa. And this tattva is beyond dharma and adharma. It says, Anyatra smat krutat krutata. One which is beyond the cause and the effect. One which is beyond the karya and the karana. Because this tattva does not have any cause. It's completely independent principle, and it does not have any effects also. There are no effects, so it is beyond the cause and the effect relationship of all the objects that we normally have in the world. We always say, what is the cause of this? What is the effect of this? This comes from this. This is developed from this. This comes from this. But this is the ultimate. This tattva does not have any cause, neither has any effects. Anyatra bhutacha bhavyacha. One which is beyond the past and the present and the future. And by cha, Guruma says, take the present also. So it is independent of time. It is always there all the time, and the space principles are within this tattva. This is so vast that this is beyond the time and the space. It is independent of this time. Yattat pashyasi. Nachiketa tells Yamaraja, what you are seeing, that tattva that you can see clearly, what you are experiencing, please tatvada, you tell me, I want to know, you tell me, you give me a updesha, tell me sermon, I wish to know this tattva. Yamaraja now starts. First, he gives the updesha or teaching of the Om. Before giving the Atma Tattva Updesha, he says, Sarve Veda Yat Padam Amananti. Says that state which is described as a goal in all the Vedas by karma, upasana, jnana, that highest state that is described. Cha tapasi sarvani yat vadanti. He says all the tapa, penances, which are done to attain that state. Yat icchanto brahmacharyam charanti, for which all the saints, they practice brahmacharya, which is that pada, which is that highest state. Tatte pada sangrahayena bravimi. That state I will tell you in brief. And Yamaraja says, Om iti etat. That state is Om. He says, and Om signifies the divine in all its forms, and even the formless divine. Om is ultimately the Suchaka or the Vachaka of the Paramatma, the highest supreme divinity. And in the next two mantras, Yamaraja describes what is Om. And he says, Etad evaksharam brahma, etad evaksharam param, etad evaksharam gnatva, yo yadichati tasya tata. He says, Etad eva aksharam brahma. That Om is the indestructible Akshara, Brahma, divine, the effect, that is the Saguna Brahma. And Etat Eva Aksharam Param, he says that is also, Om is also the eternal divine, the cause of all, the Karana Brahma. That is the Nirgun Brahma, the Saguna Brahma, how we understand. Etat Eva Aksharam Gnatva, by knowing that indivisible one divine Akshara Brahma, he says Yat Ichchati tasya tata. Whoever, one person, whatever he desires, attains the same. So Om ultimately encompasses all the Saguna, the effect, and the Nirguna, the cause of the cosmos, the cosmic cosmos, and everything is encompassed. Om is the primordial Dhvani, the first syllable or the first Dhvani or the voice is Om, and Om is nothing but Paramatma. It only signifies Paramatma. In the next mantra, uh, Yamaraja says how Om can be the best connection for us with the divine. He says, Etat alambanam shreshtam, Etat alambanam param, Etat alambanam gnatva brahmaloke mahiyate. So this is the best alamban. We need some, support or some connection to the divine. We cannot just understand the formless divine directly. It's very difficult to understand the formless divinity, and that's why we need some kind of a pratik or some kind of a, idol worship is also one way how we connect with the divine. So all these are alambanam, and Om, Yamaraja says, is the best, is the highest alambanam to the form of the divine. By the three letters, the A, U, and Ma, it can describe the three avasthas of our daily life, the Jagrat, Swapna, and the Sushupti. It can understand us the three shariras, the Sthula, the Sukshma, and the Karan Sharira. And ultimately, it is the Suchak or the Vachak of the world, the entire cosmos. Whereas Etat Alambanam Param, Param is the highest or the Nirguna, the Nirakar, Brahma, the formless divinity, and this also is signified by the Amatra. Amatra is the silence after we speak Om. After Om, when what the silence is the Amatra, and that signifies the formless of the Nirgun, Nirakar divinity. Etat Alambanam Gnatva, by knowing this connection with the divine, Brahmaloke Mahiyate, one reveals in bliss in Brahmaloka, one becomes enlightened. And now Yamaraja starts the actual teaching of the Atma Tattva. The first shloka, Najayate Mriyate, is also very similar to what is there in Bhagavad Gita in the second Adhyaya. It says this Atma Tattva has to be understand our true self, Atma, and as Guruji teaches us, it is called Tvam Pada, Viveka, you. Whereas when we understand, we do contemplation, we understand as Aham Tattva, and this has to be purified. The Shuddha Aham, the Shuddha Tvam, or Shuddha Atman has to be, carefully understood that I am not this body, this mind, the senses, I am not this prana, but I am the Atma Tattva, and that is what is now Yamaraja is teaching Nachiketa. Says Najayate Mriyate Va Vipaschita Nayam Kutaschita Na Babhuva Kaschita Ajo Nitya Shashvato Yam Purano Nahanyate Hanyamane Sharire. He says Najayate Nam Mriyate, that which is never born, that which never dies. Atma Tattva is eternal. It does not get destroyed. Va Vipaschita. It is only the death of the body. But Atma is different from the body, and that's why Atma does not have attributes or characteristics that it is born or it dies. It is the eternal Tattva. That is what Yamaraja tells Nachiketa, that see this very clearly. Na ayam kutaschita na kaschit babhuva. It is never produced. It does not have any cause or effect relationship. It does not even produce anything. It is beyond this cause and effect phenomenon or principle. Ajaha, it is unborn. It is nitya, it is eternal. It is shashvata, it remains indestructible. It does not get changed. It does not destroy itself. Even though body destroys over a period of time. Ayam puranaha, it remains ever fresh. What it was before, it remains as such always. Nahanyate hanyamane sharire. It is not destroyed even when the body gets destroyed. And that is the Atma Tattva. We have to do Viveka. We have to do this contemplation. What is my true reality? It is very different from the body. The next shloka also tells us that this Atma, the Chaitanya, is not the doer. It is a Karta and it is Abhokta. It is not the enjoyer. And this shloka is also similar to what one finds in Bhagavad Gita in the second Adhyaya. Hanta chet manyate hantum hataschen manyate hatam ubhau tau na vijanito nayam hanti na hanyate. So hanta chet manyate hantum means if a killer believes that I am the killer, hataha, Chet Manyate Hatam, the one who believes that I am being killed. Ubhau, both of these do not know. Na vijanitaha, na ayam hanti, that I do not kill. Na hanyate, neither I get killed. So, killing is actually a karta bhav. So, karta means when I believe that I am the killer or I am the doer, that is a karta bhav. When I believe that I get killed or I am, I do all this, it's a bhokta bhav. But uh, Yamaraja says here that Atma does not have this karta or bhokta bhav. It does not have these attributes. It is a non-doer, it is a karta, it is a bhokta, it is a non-enjoyer. In the next, the 20th mantra, Yamaraja says, how can this Atma be known and what are the benefits of knowing this self-knowledge? He says, Ano aniyan mahato mahiyan. It is very subtle, subtle than the subtlest of the atoms, and it is bigger than the biggest of the things. Our Upanishads, even the Ishavasya describes like this, that it is so that we don't put it into a space. Atma Tattva is beyond the space, it is beyond, it is all pervading, it pervades everywhere, even beyond the space phenomenon. That's why it tells us that it is subtlest than the subtle and the biggest than the biggest thing. Atma janto nihitah asya guhahaya. Atma also remains hidden in the mind cave of the humans, and it can only be attained by going within. And Upanishad always tells us this because we don't try to look for Atma outside, because that's our own self, and that's why we have to go within to find our real true self. Tam akratu pashyati. So who can understand this? Somebody who has gone beyond the phenomenon of karma, karma phala, one who has attained the vairagya, and that is the person who has done his karma, bhakti, attained the shuddhi. He is the person who is eligible to understand this Atma Tattva. And what is the benefit? He says, Vita shokaha, all the miseries or sorrow of our life disappear. Dhatu prasada. How does it happen? By the grace of God. Dhatu, dhata is Ishvara, who is the dharan karnar for all of us. And dhatu also means sukshma sharira. And by only a cultivated mind and intellect, we can understand this knowledge, and that can relieve us of all the miseries and sorrows of our life. And this is when one sees the greatness, the Atmanaha Mahimanam, greatness of the Atma, its characteristics, its unique characteristics, that it is unborn, it is eternal, it is non-doer, it is non-enjoyer. All these, when one understands, then we can be relieved of all of our sorrows. In the next mantra, Yamaraja says, Asino duram vrajati. The person who keeps sitting, for this the Atma Tattva remains far away. In a sense, for a person who is not eligible to understand Atma Tattva, he can never feel, never think, never see this Atma Tattva in their life. Shayanaha yati sarvataha. By sleeping, it reaches everywhere. Sleeping means that for the eligible person who is oblivious to this worldly glitter, who is sleeping towards these worldly objects, that person, Atma Tattva, is seen all pervading. He can visualize everywhere that there is his Tattva. And a similar shlok is there in Bhagavad Gita, where the meaning is similar, the words are different. Kastam madam amadam devam. And for that person who is gone beyond the pleasures, mada means harsha, and amada means shoka. So one who has gone beyond this pleasure and pain phenomenon, madanya gnatum arhati. For how can anyone but not know it? Only I can know it within me. I cannot know it outside. Gnatum arhati madanya. Nobody can know it without going without inside. And Yamaraja says this. So because he is the god of death, so he can understand what is going on beyond death. That also can be a meaning. Only can be known by a teacher like me, or it has to be known only within me. That is the meaning of this word. And now Yamaraja describes the Atma Tattva. He says, Ashariram sharireshva shvavata, that which lives in all the bodies, but it is different, it is vilakshana, it is completely different from the body. Anavasteshva avastitam, which is the permanent foundation of all the impermanent objects of this world. It is the foundation. Mahantam vibhum atmanam matva. By knowing such a great, all-pervading Atma Tattva, dhiraha na shochati. Such a dhira purusha, that wise man, the one who has a lot of patience to do this journey, And to reach this goal, na shochati, does not grieve. And these fruits are also described in Bhagavad Gita. This Atma, how can it be known? Yamaraja says, I am Atma pravachanena na labhyaha. Cannot be known by just giving pravachan or speaking about Atma Tattva. It has to be internalized. Na medhaya, not by big intelligence or high IQ quotient. It cannot be known because it's a very subtle, it requires very subtle intellect to understand Atma Tattva. Na bahuna shutena, not even by listening too many times. One keeps listening but does not introspect or contemplate on it. It cannot be known. Yame vaishya vrunute tena labhyaha. But it can only be known by the person who vrunite. Who vrunute means who chooses that this is my highest priority now in life. And tena labhyaha. Only that person can attain Atma Tattva, which a person who has a burning desire makes it as a life goal and gives it the highest priority over all the worldly things. Only then that person can understand and know this Atma Tattva. Tasyesha, for that person, Atma Vivrunute Tanum Swam. That for that person, for that seeker who has this kind of a highest priority, the Atma unfolds its true nature in front of that person and he understands this Atma Tattva. And Guru Maharaj tells us that it is my responsibility to make the choice whether what are my priorities in life, what are my goals in life, and how do we want to live life. After a certain period of time, Guru Maharaj says that we must have a master plan of our life so that our life takes a turn and we gradually, once we have fulfilled all our worldly ambitions, we can gradually migrate towards the divine path and uplift ourselves to attain and understand the divine. And who cannot attain this knowledge, Atma's knowledge? Na virato dushcharitat. One who has not given up the vices in his character. There are a lot of vices. He has not accepted dharma. That person, dushcharitra person, na avirataha, who has not stopped these vices, that person cannot understand Atma Tattva. One has to get over, have moral values, the divine values, the Daivi Sampatti have to be there to understand Atma Tattva. Na ashantaha, a person who doesn't have control over the mind, the senses, just keeps on using that indiscriminately, cannot understand Atma Tattva. Asamahitaha, person who doesn't have concentration, sitting in silence to understand this Tattva, cannot understand. Ashanta Manasaha, one who has not calmed his mind, a person who is restless, cannot understand Atma Tattva. Va api prajnanena apnuvat, one cannot understand this, they cannot understand this divine knowledge of our own self. And finally, in the last mantra, Yamaraja says it is very difficult and rare to know divine completely, to see the Paramatma fully in all its respects. He says, Yasya Brahma cha Shatram cha, for that Brahmin and Kshatriya, for that divinity, Brahmin and Kshatriya, Ubhe Bhavata Odanaha, they are both like rice. Odanaha is rice in a dish. Mrityu Asya Apasechanam ka. He says even Mrityu is like Apasechanam. Apasechanam means like a side dish, like a vegetable or some chutney or something. Mrityu is also like that. Brahmins and Kshatriyas are like rice. Adhyaya, who can know such a divine person? Yatra Saha, as it truly is in all the forms, in Saguna as a Vishwarupa and as a formless Nirguna, Nirakara, divine. How can somebody know that divine fully, completely, for whom Brahmins and Kshatriyas are like just rice in a dish, and even Mrityu, the god of death, whom everybody fears, is just like a side dish. How can that divinity be known? And that with this we come to the end of the second Valli of the first Adhyaya of Katha-Upanishad. Iti Katho Katako Upanishadi Prathamadhyaye Dvitiya Valli Samaptam. Om Gurum Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwara Gurur Sakshat Parah Brahma Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha.